Hi, today's story is The Little Fir Tree. In the heart of the forest there stood a young fir tree. It grew in a fine spot with plenty of fresh air and sunlight, but it was surrounded by trees that were far taller and stronger than itself. The little fir tree would look up at the other trees and wish that it was big and strong too. In its first winter, a hare hopped right over the little fir tree. It shook its branches with irritation and was so cross that it barely noticed the beauty of the snowy forest around it. When spring came, it didn't notice the children who had their picnics by its side, the baby birds that played among its branches, or the sunbeams that danced among its needles. All the little fir tree could think was, "I wish I would grow up quickly. I wish I could see what the world is like." 1 year passed and then another, and though the little fir tree grew, it was never quite fast enough. "Why can't I grow more quickly?" it sighed. One snowy winter, some woodcutters came by and chopped down some of the taller, more handsome trees in the green forest. "Where are they going? Will they get to see the world?" wondered the little fir tree. We know," said two fat robins. "We flew into town and we peeped through the windows. Such magnificence awaits them. They will be planted in pots in warm rooms and decorated with gingerbread and pretty toys and candles." Every twig of the fir tree trembled at the thought of it. "Oh, how I wish I could live in someone's room and be decorated with beautiful things." "O little fir tree," sparkled the sunbeams, "rejoice in your youth." "O little fir tree," sang the birds, "stay and enjoy the green forest." "O little fir tree," whispered the wind, "let me play in your branches." But the little fir tree didn't listen, and every day it longed to be somewhere else, somewhere more exciting. Over the next year, it grew into a tall, strong tree. Everyone who passed by said how beautiful it was. When the woodcutters returned in winter, it was the first tree to be cut down. "At last," thought the fir tree. It was placed in a horse-drawn cart and carried to a large house. Two servants lifted the fir tree into the house and set it down in a grand drawing room. The room was filled with fine paintings, furniture, and ornate vases. There were velvet curtains and silken sofas and a beautiful window where a pot stood waiting for the tree. The fir tree shivered with excitement as it was placed in the pot. What will happen next, it wondered. Several servants came into the room and sighed at the sight of the lovely fir tree. They started to hang beautiful decorations all over its branches. There were small net bags filled with sweets, golden apples and clusters of walnuts, miniature dolls, wooden toys, bright shining baubles, and hundreds of tiny candles stuck to the branches with melted wax. Finally, at the very top of the tree, they placed a shimmering gold star. "How the tree will shine tonight," said the servants. "Oh, if only tonight would come," thought the impatient fir tree. "And then what? Will I stay here forever dressed like this?" It longed so badly for the evening to come quickly. Later that night, a servant came to light every candle so that the fir tree looked dazzlingly beautiful. A family dressed in fine clothing came into the room, and the children gasped with delight to see the magnificence of the fir tree. The tree's branches quivered with uncertainty. "What will they do to me now? Will I stay here?" it worried. Soon the family was singing carols around the tree, and the little ones danced around it, ruffling its branches as they went. Later a maid came to snuff out the candles, and the children began plundering the fir tree for its hidden toys and treats. Nobody paid any attention to the tree now. They were too busy playing with their gifts. At last the children tugged on the sleeve of one of the older men. Daddy, tell us a story, they begged. He smiled and sat down next to the tree where he told them the story of Humpty Dumpty, who fell off a wall but married a princess and became a king. It was a wonderful story, the first the tree had ever heard. Maybe that will happen to me, the tree thought. One day I might fall over and marry a princess too. Perhaps I will become a king. When the stories were over, the fir tree was left alone in the room, and it thought, I will try not to tremble or worry tomorrow. I will be still and straight, so I can enjoy it more, and the children can admire me better. However, when the morning came, none of the children returned. Instead, 2 servants dug the fir tree out of its pot and carried it up to a dark, dusty corner of the attic. The fir tree lay alone in the darkness for many hours, wondering what might happen next in its adventures. It's winter outside now, thought the tree. Perhaps that is why I am here. The ground is too cold and hard to plant me again. They must be waiting for spring to come round again. And so the fir tree lay patiently in the dark, dusty attic for many long days and nights, and it often thought how nice it would be to feel the sunbeams or the breeze on my branches right now. How I miss the hair that used to hop over me and the beauty of the forest I grew up in. One night, 2 little mice appeared at the fir tree's side, squeaking and rustling among its branches. It might be nice and warm here in the branches of this old tree, said one mouse to the other. I'm not an old tree, said the fir tree. There are many trees older than me in the forest. Oh, do tell us where you came from, said the mice, excited to have some company. Have you seen the world? We have only ever seen the inside, the food cupboard. So the fir tree told them of the world it had seen, the green forest with the singing birds, the shimmering snow in winter, the pretty flowers in summer. It told them of the hair that used to hop over it, and the sunbeams and the wild wind that played amongst its branches. It told them of its journey to the house, and how its branches had been so beautifully decorated. It told them of the singing, dancing children, and the story of Humpty Dumpty. How lucky you have been, gasped the mice. How happy you must have been, they squeaked. And all of a sudden the fir tree felt quite foolish for not realizing it at the time. Yes, and how silly I have been, said the tree quietly, and it sat in the dark, wishing for its old life again. One fine day at the end of winter, 2 servants came into the attic and carried the fir tree out into the bright daylight. They left it in a wild corner of the garden next to the weeds and the grass cuttings, but the fir tree didn't mind at all. The sun shone brightly, and once more the sunbeams danced on its yellowing branches. The cool breeze ruffled what was left of its needles, and a fat robin landed on a branch near to its only remaining Christmas decoration, the golden star at the top. As the tree looked around at the spring blossoms and the blue sky, it suddenly realized how very lucky its life had been. And thank you for reading with me. Goodbye.